What is going on, guys? I got the 540 here in the garage. If it bothers you that I call it a 540, I'm sorry. Yes, you guys know it's a 530 with a B40 swapped in it. I'm not gonna sit here every video and say it's a 530 with a B40 swapped in it. That's a lot to say. Anyway, so I got it in the garage, and as I kind of explained to you guys in the video when I introduced this car, it's not getting fuel, or at least I was told it's not getting fuel, and it seems to not getting fuel. So to run you guys through it really quick, I know I kind of touched on it, but the guy told me car wasn't getting, the fuel pump wasn't getting power. He replaced the fuel pump and replaced the relay, and still nothing. So basically he said he hardwired the pump straight to the battery and got the car to start. So the pump has two wires on it that are coming out under the seat. I tried that and the car still didn't start, but the pump did not sound good at all. I'm kind of thinking, since they're not black and red, they're both red, I may have hooked it up the wrong way and possibly damaged the pump. So that is a possibility, or just the pump fried in general. But I'm kind of thinking here, when he said he replaced the fuel pump relay, there's 4 relays in here. I'm kind of thinking maybe he didn't replace the right one. But I also found this purple one, which I've never seen in an E34 ever. I've looked at a few pictures of 540s and have not seen this relay. Usually there's 3 in here, right? With this, there's 4, and it has a fried ground wire. I cannot see anywhere in this loom a ground wire that matches that, but I do see a ground wire in the loom out here. Where's my light? Let me get this light for you guys. So if you look here, you can see right there is a burnt ground wire as well. So between there and here, I think all that wire is missing, and I'm guessing that is what that ground connects to. But at the end of the day, I don't know what this relay is for, and I don't think it's the fuel pump relay, because like I said, it's a 5-prong, but the main relay is this one, which is a 5-prong. So realistically, I don't think this is the issue. I think this is something from a while back, and I'd imagine that this has been like this. So I'm not gonna go ahead and jump right into fixing all this wire right here until I try my few tests. Now, I already checked for spark, and the car does have spark, so initially I thought maybe it was a crank sensor. I don't think it's the crank sensor. So I do think it's fuel related. I went today to Tim and picked up a few body panels that I wanted, and I also picked up the true B40 fuel pump, because I believe a 540 has a different pump than a 525 and even probably a 530. So I grabbed a pump from them. So my first plan of action here is I'm gonna wire, or I'm not even wire in, but I'm gonna install the new pump and get rid of the hardwire batteries, or the hardwire wires, and you can retain the stock you know, sending unit wiring that, you know, the car should have, because I did test it with a voltmeter and I got, you know, 2 or 6 whatever signal volts, so meaning that should be getting power. So that was after I replaced a few relays. This is a few days back. I kind of quickly glossed over things. So like I said, I do think he might have just switched the relays, but I'm gonna put a new pump in it, wire it up how it's supposed to be wired up, not that stupid 12-volt junk, and see if she starts. Do have my worries. Check the oil level, and it's severely low. There's nothing on the dipstick, which right off the bat, that's scary. And then 3rd and 4th, I cannot find on the gearbox. I don't know if that's just a weird thing from sitting, but both of those are scaring me. You know, I was kind of thinking maybe the guy screwed me and sold me a car that has a fuel issue, but in reality it has a blown motor. But he did go through the attempts of trying to get it running again, so I don't think that was the case. I don't know why it would be low on oil. The car's been parked in the driveway for a week and a half, and there's no oil underneath it. So unless I pour oil in it and it goes straight to the ground, which I'm praying is not the case, I really hope there's not a cracked oil pan or something like that. I'm just gonna top it off and everything should be good to go there. But I'm gonna do that before I do anything else. I'm gonna put some oil in it. So I poured the oil in there. Luckily, nothing went to the ground, and it's on the dipstick now. It was basically a 1.5 quart low, which is not good at all, but you know, these motors are pretty resilient, so I'm not too worried about the motor. At least there's no oil pan crack or something stupid like that to where it all just leaks out. So it had oil in it. So now that that's, you know, taken care of, while that was very stupid and minor, I'm gonna go ahead and pull out the fuel pump housing and everything and get that out and check on the wiring. I really hope that the guy didn't hack the wiring to do the 12-volt. I hope he just unhooked it from the fuel pump. Sorry, looking at this. The fuel lines are held on by a zip tie, and this one has nothing. So that's brilliant. And I'm kind of thinking there's a possibility that these are switched. So that is definitely something I should look into. See if the guy messed up the order of these. That would definitely be a reason why the car doesn't get any fuel. But looking back here, this is a relay that was laying here, and considering it was by all this stuff, I'm guessing this is the relay he replaced, thinking it was the fuel pump. But the blue is almost always O2 on these cars, so that might further my suspicion that he mixed up the relays. But the guy said he's owned a lot of BMWs, but from what I saw when I was there, it was more of a newer one. It didn't seem like he would have been too familiar with these. But this is missing most of the nuts, and they're not even tight. So it's already looking pretty goofy back here. But I'm gonna pull this out and see what things look like. This is never what you want to see on a fuel pump assembly. So as I was worried, the guy cut the sending unit wires straight up and then literally just twisted these direct wires into the pump. I mean, you see that it literally just came apart right there. So yeah, with duct tape nonetheless. So look at that. That is brilliant right there. All right, so I just learned a little something. I learned that this fuel pump has the clip connector that looks like this, and the one out of Tim's 540 has the two individual wires, I guess you could call it, attachment points. And you know, we sat there, and as I pulled this, I said to myself, I don't think I need the sending unit unless something's rigged up with mine. Surely enough, something is rigged up with mine. So I asked him if I could just take his. He said sure. I'd rather honestly drive all the way out to him again and pick up the sending unit that goes with that pump rather than cut here and figure out a way to get those to connect to that and then reconnect these. Anytime there's, like, you know, spliced connections in a fuel tank, I haven't had good experiences with it. And we are back. So I got the sending unit from Tim. As you can see, these are the fuel pump connections which fit this pump. You know, I'm not sure what years came with, you know, each type. It's kind of weird and confusing, but unfortunately we chopped these, so that means these are no good. So I'm just gonna pull the hoses off this, and these have real hose clamps, which is nice, but these are imposta clamps, so I just use a Dremel to get those off. You know, with fuel it might not be advisable, but I'm away from the gas tank. I don't foresee that being much of an issue. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap over my hoses onto this, get this all hooked up, and then shove it back in. So I was looking at these assemblies, right? And I lined up the hoses where we cut them, obviously, and I found that this is the feed, obviously. This connected into this port right here, the one furthest from, I guess you could call the electrical connector and stuff. That's the feed on this assembly. This was in the running parts car of Tim's. This was mine. And if you look, this one farthest from the middle, if you follow that line, that goes to the return. So I looked up a diagram to confirm my suspicions, and according to the diagram, this is in fact supposed to be the feed, the one further from the middle. So this is backwards then. So I don't know if this car was ever ran, or maybe the lines are switched up in there, although they shouldn't be. It's pretty hard to twist them in there. This was set up wrong, so that can also be why this car wasn't starting. So now I'm kind of excited to get all this wrapped up and put it back in, because now I have high hopes. So we'll see. All right, I got everything hooked up, all the hose clamps on, I got the fuel pump connected, I cleaned out the sock a little bit, so this thing is ready to drop in and hook everything up, and then fingers crossed that that she goes. So I got everything hooked up, and I went to turn the key on, and there was no noise from the fuel pump. So now I'm kind of perplexed. I tried jumping the relay, but nothing. I hooked up a voltmeter and it does get power. So the fuel pump relay is getting power, which means I believe the fuse is getting power, and the fuse is intact, but power is not getting back there. I'm gonna take the voltmeter and check that back sensor one more time, but I'm positive the fuel pump's hooked up properly. I really don't think 94 to 95 anything's different in the sending unit wiring. So that leaves me pretty confused. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. So I've tried multiple relays and even just a straight up jump between pin 30 and 87, and no matter what, I'm getting no power to the fuel pump fuse. Even while cranking, you have to do it while cranking because it doesn't get power when it's just the keys on. So something is not letting power get from here to there. I've never experienced that before. It seems like no one online has experienced that before. It seems like most of the time it's either no power there or whatever. Hardwired the pump and got it to, and I got it to actually make noise, and I actually got it to shoot fuel. So I know that pump's working, and maybe what I'll do before I even do the crank sensor, maybe I'll actually hook up all the fuel lines, hardwire the pump, and see if the thing starts. Because that'll, if it doesn't start, then I think that means it's a crank sensor, because that means it's not getting sparked then. So I guess I'll do that first, and then I'll go over to the crank sensor. So with the hardwired pump, I actually got the car to run, so I finally heard this thing run. It sounds pretty freaking sweet. It runs good. Car runs with a hardwired fuel pump. So it's not a crank sensor. Something is not connecting the fuel pump relay to the fuel pump fuse. All right, day 2 out here. Did a little research last night, did a little thinking. I didn't find out a bunch. I checked my DME. It is, in fact, a B40 DME. So that's a start. I opened it up. Nothing looked wrong. Worst case, I'll grab a spare DME and try that. But I really don't think that's the issue here. I read something that said this crash sensor, which plugs in right next to the CMM or the CCM here, I read that those can go bad and that will cut off fuel, but that would also be accompanied by hazards and no interior lights. So I don't think this is, I don't think that's it, but I'm gonna trade it from the Calypso anyway. And then I'm also gonna trade the main and the fuel pump relay out of that car, both known good relays. I've never touched the main relay on this car. If the fuel pump relay is getting 12, then I'm nearly positive that the main relay is working. So I doubt that'll do anything. But I've read a lot of posts of people that have been, you know, not necessarily the same issues, but damn close. And these people say, some people just said, oh yeah, you know, I unplugged everything, plugged everything back in, and somehow the car worked, which is a sign of a bad connection somewhere. And then, you know, if none of that works, I'm gonna have to pull up all these fuses and kind of look at the wiring underneath, because clearly something wiring related is not working here. I really want to avoid having to do a hardwired fuel pump that's just with a switch. It's just one extra thing that makes it really annoying. You know, firing up your car, you gotta remember to turn on the fuel pump, you gotta remember to turn it off, and it's just not the best thing. It's a little bogus. So I'd like the car to retain its factory fuel pump system here. So I'm gonna pull up some wiring, change some relays, and go from there. Look at that, she fired up. So we have a running car under its own power, no hardwire. Don't run so good, but it runs. I am stoked. So I feel like an idiot, and you guys are gonna tell me I'm an idiot and think I'm an idiot, but I swapped all the relays from this car into this car, still nothing, right? I realized that I was missing the relay down there in the middle, which I thought was the O2. So I put one in, and surely enough, the car started. So this entire time I was messing with this, which is in that corner, thinking this was the fuel pump relay because it has the green and purple wire on it, which is the fuel pump color. I'm an absolute idiot. Didn't realize that this one has the same color, which I didn't think they would. I only thought one had that color for the fuel pump. But turns out, surely enough, that relay was the fuel pump relay, not this one. So the entire time I was jumping the wrong relay, messing with the wrong relay, which explains why there was no power there. I feel like an idiot. I wasted all my time. But I'm not completely stupid, because this was the first relay that I changed when I first got the car. I swapped that one and the car still didn't start. So I do think I was right in saying that that fuel pump wasn't working. I think it was fried, because I know for a fact I changed that relay. I didn't film it, but it didn't fix it. So between that relay and the pump, I think both were bad. It took me hours and hours of sitting here troubleshooting to realize that. Like I said, I feel like an idiot. But she's running, and I am stoked. The car, while it's running, I was able to get it in and out of all the gears. Third and fourth is still very weird feeling, but I'm gonna lower it. There's nothing I can do underneath the car right now, at least. And I'm just gonna let it run. It's been sitting for a while, and I think after some run time, that rough idle might cure itself. Not even a rough idle, but that rev. So the check engine light that was on when I started last night is no longer there, so that's a plus. So I don't know if I don't think there's anything that's necessarily unhappy, but something might not be the most happy. But I'm gonna lower it, start it up, let it run, and then we might be going on our first drive in this thing. As long as everything checks out. I gotta check the oil one last time and put all this back in place. But I'm stoked. It runs. I can't wait to drive this thing for the first time. I found quite a bit of things that had to be addressed before I could actually take this thing on a ride. First off, I noticed all four of the wheels only had 2 lugs, so I had to put all the lugs in and torque the wheels. Even the ones that were in there were loose, so thank God I did that. I had to close up all the trunk stuff, the fuel stuff. Driver's seat had a blown fuse. I had to fix that fuse. There was a bunch of wiring underneath the steering column that was getting in the way of the pedals. I had to remove that, or zip tie that up. Put everything back together in the engine bay. I had to add coolant. I had to add oil, and I think we're about ready to go on a ride. I got a plate on here, so I'm pretty excited, pretty nervous. I hope this thing runs and drives good. So I got gas, not a lot, but the gas gauge works, which I didn't know if it did. Temp gauge, the light's out, not a huge deal. I got turn signal out apparently, but aside from that, I turned off the gas station. It fired right back up. The air tank is coming on when it needs to come on and shutting off when it needs to shut off. It goes into all the gears smoothly. It brakes nice. The car feels a little wobbly at high RPMs. I think that could have to do with the really old and probably low PSI tires that this thing's on. But initial impressions, 540 life, not bad at all. This thing sounds sweet. It burbles and everything. It is miserably cold out, like windy, so it's kind of hard for me to roll down the windows and actually not like die. But I'll give you guys a little pull right here. I'll roll down the window and give you guys a roll. The clutch feels good. The car shifts. Like I'm pretty stoked. All right, I'll give you guys a rip right here. If these guys could drive literally any slower, like, all right, let's go. So I don't know if you guys can actually, hear much of the exhaust, but this thing is like this is probably the coolest sounding BMW ever, to be honest. Like, I know the turbo E34 is sick. I know oh, and there goes my window. I knew this regulator was bad, but I didn't know how bad. But I'm stoked. This thing sounds like a freaking rocket ship. Not even a rocket ship. It just sounds like American muscle, but like German sound. I don't even know like how to talk. Like, I'm so fed up with trying to get this thing to run. I'm so excited right now. And now that this window just broke on me, I could be a little happier. But I will see you guys back at the house. I'm gonna drive this thing. I'm a little scatterbrained right now, like nervous, driving a new car / whatever. All right, we made it back. I'm gonna give you guys a good exhaust note now, some revs. This might be the most badass sounding BMW I've ever heard. These things definitely live up to the hype. I am so stoked. She made it back. She seems to be firing right up. Again, I got the relays out of that car. Maybe I'll leave those in here or buy new ones in general. I don't know. It could have been a dead battery, so I'll probably swap them back and see if she still starts. But I'd consider everything working in working order. I'm extremely happy. I'm so glad I got this thing started. For a while there, I thought that was going to be it. I thought it was never going to run. So I'm stoked. Thank you guys for watching. More videos to come. And there's my carbon monoxide alarm because I've been revving this thing in the garage. More videos to come on this thing, making it look a lot better exterior wise. I got to put back together some of the interior, just some minor stuff, and then we'll see what I do, whether I paint it, wrap it, we'll see. Yeah, I expect some build. I think I'm gonna hold on to this car, so there'll probably be some build content, wheels one day. Likely going into winter, I probably won't do a whole lot. If this is going to be the next BMW build, I don't think I want to put it on wheels and stuff just for it to sit outside, because this definitely isn't going to get a garage spot over my touring, I have to say. But we'll see where we go. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.